What up, this is Rama Screen covering movies, TV, and entertainment, and here's my review of Netflix new movie, Persuasion. Hey, before you watch my review, please subscribe to my channel, press that like button, ring that bell, so you can get notified whenever I post new videos. Let's rock this. Look, I don't know much about Jane Austen's books, and I've never read Persuasion in particular. So if you're hoping that I'd be like, oh my god, this movie got it wrong on this part and that part, how dare they? This is such a bastardization of who Jane Austen was and everything she stood for. Well, you won't get that outrage from me because again, Jane Austen's books are just not my cup of tea. Well, I did read Pride and Prejudice back in high school, but that's because my English teacher pretty much said, hey, either you read it and write an essay about it, or I'm giving you a D-. But now that I've watched this film adaptation, what's my verdict? Persuasion is excruciatingly weak. This whole thing is basically like Bridgerton, without the wit, the excitement, the gossip, the scandal, and the passion. And I got nothing against breaking the fourth wall, but Dakota Johnson keeps smirking at the camera every other 5 minutes. It just distracts you from the experience of watching this film, even more so than it already does, no thanks to its lackluster romance. Based on Jane Austen's novel, scripted by Ron Bass and Alice Victoria Winslow, and directed by Carrie Cracknell, in Persuasion, living with her snobby family on the brink of bankruptcy, Anne Elliot is an unconforming woman with modern sensibilities. When Frederick Wentworth, the dashing man she previously sent away, crashes back into her life, Anne must choose between putting the past behind her or listening to her heart when it comes to second chances. I can just imagine that maybe the producers of this film saw an episode of Bridgerton and thought, hey, let's do a similar approach but on an actual classic literature work, and maybe the audiences will eat that up. But one of the many problems with Persuasion is that it takes a long route just to get to the destination that we all knew was gonna come for Anne Elliot. And the whole he loves me not dilemma gets wrapped up in a string of wishy-washy attitude disguised as a period piece female empowerment. And speaking as a fan of romantic dramas, I hate that after all that journey, our hearts still don't ache for Anne's pain. I mean, usually in other cases, the audiences would burn to see Anne and Wentworth end up together. But in this case, the lack of vigor and the indecisiveness just make me couldn't care less about it. And you know it's problematic when some of the female supporting characters leave a stronger impression compared to the bland Anne, who'd rather speak to the camera than to impactfully engage the people around her. I am not one of those people who think that English characters should only be played by English actors, because if the Americans can pull it off, then why the hell not? It is acting after all. But I would have to agree with the opinions that shout that perhaps Dakota Johnson is sorely miscast in this role. At times, Dakota tries too hard, and at other times, she's just strolling along. The script ultimately holds the most blame, but you're not getting much depth out of Dakota's performance either. And yeah, it can get pretty frustrating. Henry Golding's talent is also wasted on this film. Persuasion doesn't know the first thing about playing off the love triangle dynamics at all, and it's so obvious. And so, overall, Persuasion unfortunately and miserably fails to sweep anybody off their feet. And it goes to show that the Bridgerton formula might work for Bridgerton, but it's not a one-size-fits-all. It doesn't necessarily work for everything else.